there are a whole variety of different needs that need to be balanced in this. And you're obviously coming into this through the lens of wanting to make the workplace better for trans people, but that doesn't mean we ignore everybody else's needs too. That there's actually a way of finding this kind of connection between everybody.
I think people want, or think there is, like this perfect silver bullet solution that will take care of everything.
Right.
And sadly, I hate to break the news, it's not. There's a lot of things that we can solve, but there are going to be moments where there's going to be tough decisions. And even within those tough decisions, there can be thoughtful balancing.
When organizations start thinking about trans inclusion, there is often this moment of, okay, something's gone wrong, something's not right. What's the fix? Like there must be one thing, one policy, one form field, one piece of training. And if you change that, then everything's sorted. But unfortunately, it's almost never that simple. Most of the time, the thing that looks like a quick fix ends up connecting to 5 other systems you didn't even realize were involved. And if you rush it, you can accidentally make things messier instead of better. So today we're talking about why quick fixes rarely work, what it actually looks like to slow down and assess the bigger picture, and how thinking through trade-offs leads to solutions that actually work for everyone, not just trans people. Kai is here with me, thankfully, to talk it through. How are you doing, Kai?
I'm doing fantastic. Yeah, I'm really excited to be talking about this topic. And had a good weekend, and now we're into the week.
I'm actually genuinely excited about this topic because I think that it plays on quite a lot of people's thoughts. Like when it comes to gender at work, I think people are like, okay, we need this thing fixed, so we'll just go in and we'll fix that one thing and then everything's okay. And that's not reflective of the work that you see at Transfocus, right?
That's right.
And so it's a good place to start when we're talking about all the projects that we've had, or people have come to us thinking that there is this quick and easy fix. What have those situations actually looked like when they kind of unfold?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that people want a quick fix. I mean, when it comes to other things, I'm like, okay, what's the fast thing, right? I mean, we live in a fast-paced world, and we want to relieve that tension that we feel on a particular topic, and maybe for some feel really uncertain about it, and so it's like, okay, quickly get to the resolution.
Right.
So, yeah, understandable. And also, I've just found time and time again, people come in, whether it's a request for education, which is an understandable place to start, or thinking, oh, there's this system thing. It feels like it should be a really quick thing of like, well, let's just add a field or add a category. And then they just we unpack it a little bit, and then they realize, oh, wait a second, this has cascading impacts, or this ties or connects to something else downstream, or oh, I didn't realize we need to think about things in like a trade-off way, like, well, we could gain this, but we might have to let go of that. And so it's just that tension kind of needs to be further resolved with discussion, strategies. Certainly we come with best practices, but there are a few handful of options in each topic. And so just thoughtfully thinking those through is a really important part. And then certainly thinking also an eye to implementation. A lot of these topics, especially when it comes to gender diversity, are sadly, a little bit more charged, and people can lack the understanding that's needed. And so that has to be thought through there carefully as well.
And so when organizations come to you with an issue, whether it's something that they have realized something that needs to be fixed, or maybe an incident has happened and they need to kind of figure out how to make sure it doesn't happen again, usually the desire to help is quite strong, but then what's actually needed, the pathway itself isn't clear. And so when organizations jump to that quick fix, what can happen? Like, what's the backlash of that, rather than just going in and doing the sort of band-aid thing that they want to do?
People, they think that it'll be a quick thing, but then especially when the path is unclear, it takes a minute to kind of get one's footing, as well
Mm.
as understand the full scope of things, what the issues are, and also their corresponding solutions. Unfortunately, if people kind of rush into a quick fix or solving something quickly, they can create more damage, even if that wasn't
Mm.
the intention. They unfortunately, okay, let's just add this category and call it a day. But then people ask questions, or they're upset, or it doesn't quite fit their needs. They haven't thought through the full spectrum of needs. Of course, it's not just trans men and women, there's non binary folks, there's two spirit folks, right? So just
Right.
being thoughtful about the pathway that one chooses, and being it's not to say that all things will be solved, but to have confidence in, like, okay, this is what we're deciding for these reasons, and
Hmm.
we're assured that we're making this decision and we have the supporting rationale, and also that we can explain it to other people,
Hmm.
and understand if it doesn't quite actually meet everybody's needs, to be say, hey, we considered that, and unfortunately because of this reason we aren't able to adopt exactly, but we have this alternative, right? And so these kinds of
Mm.
kind of nimble shifts and explanations can be hugely helpful, even if people don't agree with what the approach that an organization took.
Hmm. I want to come back to that because I do have some questions. Well, that I've just thought of actually.
Okay,
So I'll
excellent.
come back to that. But one of the things I kind of wanted to do was talk about that process of realizing that the picture is bigger than first thought. And one of the things you've talked about before is people considering, let's say, for example, trans customers, and they're trying to think of ways around making their organization a better place for their customers that might be trans, but maybe
Yeah.
don't look at the actual much wider picture, which is that they potentially have trans people within their own organization, if they have
Mm,
trans people as employees. And so there's a lot more to think about. And so I was wondering if you could go into the process of that and what that looks like. Is that a
yeah.
question?
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
I what I like here is that there's multiple components, and often clients can come in for one or the other. So
Right.
oftentimes it's customers or clients, because of course people are customer oriented. Understandably, they want their
Right.
organization to serve and to thrive, and to contribute, and offer services or goods, and if there's a barrier to that, then that can, things can break down,
Right.
and of course it's difficult for staff to or employees to know how to handle those very delicate and often sensitive issues. So there's a kind of a breakdown there when it comes to customers. But if they're only focused on customers, they lose sight of the fact that they have somebody who potentially is trans or non-binary in their staff or employees,
Hmm.
and so you can lose track of one or the other. Uh, and what I tend to explain is that there's a bit of a feedback loop between the two. Uh,
Right.
how trans customers or clients are treated gets observed by trans and non-binary employees, whether they're out or not.
Hmm.
Especially if they're not out, they're really carefully monitoring this
Right.
type of interaction to be like, is
Yeah,
it
I
safe
could
for me
imagine.
to share? And
Hmm.
if it's a really crappy interaction, then they're like, mum's the word. We're not gonna ever share about being trans or non-binary.
Right.
um, and it could also be a positive feedback loop. So if a trans customer is treated well, then that creates a relief and a sense of safety, and like, oh, okay, this organization knows how to handle these situations, and maybe feels more confident to open up about themselves in many
Hmm.
different ways. Similarly, I would say customers, if they know somebody is trans, whether they shared that or it's observable, they can also be making assessments about organizations. And so it's really important to have both in view, even if you're going to focus on one as a strategy session or education. It's okay to focus, but just not lose sight of the other part of the puzzle.
Hmm. Okay, I want to come back to what you were saying about trade offs because I
Okay.
think that's really important. And I also
Mhm.
think that maybe, well, I mean, I'm inventing this. I've got no way of verifying this is true, but
Okay.
I feel like people would maybe be surprised that this is a consideration, that there are a whole variety of different needs that need to be balanced in this. And you're obviously coming into this through the lens of wanting to make the workplace better for trans people, but that
Mhm.
doesn't mean we ignore everybody else's needs
Mhm.
too. That there's
Yeah.
actually a way of finding this kind of connection between everybody to make it a generally better workplace for everybody.
Hmm.
And so I really want to ask you about how those trade-offs show up once you actually start working through all of the options, and how, yeah, this, it's not a one size fits all, or
Mhm.
one solution is correct. And I find that really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important to think of that. I think people want or think there is like this perfect silver bullet solution that will take care of everything.
Right.
And sadly, I hate to break the news, it's not. There's a lot of things that we can solve, but there are going to be moments where there's going to be tough decisions. And even within those tough decisions, there can be thoughtful balancing.
Right.
And whether that's within the gender spectrum for trans and non binary folks, but also across with cis folks as well, right?
Hmm.
And so, if we're thinking about washrooms or expanding gender categories, or adding a first name field within an information system, or creating a policy, even, these are key parts where we want to look at what those trade offs are. And a big one is like cost consideration. So
Right.
it kind of ties to viability and, of
Hmm.
course, tough decisions within organizations. Do we spend it here or there? So that is a consideration. And
Right.
we try to go for solutions that are low to medium cost so that they can be implemented quickly, right?
Hmm.
There can be trade-offs also with like the tension between privacy and safety. That one is really interesting,
Mm. Yeah, I
and
bet.
it's counterintuitive, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I you think okay, if you have privacy, you can also have safety, and you can. But say in a washroom context, the more you enclose something, the less one can see in to be able to help if there's a safety issue, right?
Right.
And of course, many, not just trans folks, want privacy. I think probably because more and more in our society, we're just way visible. And so I think there's this wanting to be,
Yeah.
enclosed. Some
Sure.
um, but then, you have to think about safety. And so it's where you position privacy in relation to safety. So, for example, in all gender multi stall, the privacy is at the level of the stall. So it's a fully enclosed, its own door, no gaps. Versus the safety is the open concept, open entrances, a free flow through the space,
Hmm.
very lit so that you can see. And so that can kind of balance the two, but you have to think about that thoughtfully to
Right.
create
Yeah.
that. um, there's also I wouldn't say it. There's kind of a misconception of a trade-off between trans women and cis women, and so
Mm.
not all trade-offs are real. Um,
Right.
there can be a sense of that being the case, but actually, once you look at all the dimensions, whether it's within a washroom or related to a policy, it actually is contributing to both. And so
Mm.
that's where we're bringing all those together. But you do have to appreciate the unique experiences of each. And I think that's where sometimes things go missing. So those are just a few examples, but the trade offs, we have a very careful mechanism for bringing those up and talking about them in a frank, candid way. We're not shying away from them so that
Hmm.
we surprise later on, but we're just trying to surface them. And oftentimes, in certain settings, we can also do a bit of a trade off analysis so that we're kind of
Right. Yeah.
attributing numbers and, yeah, fleshing that out a little bit more.
Have you ever suggested something that's taken people by surprise when it comes to the trade-offs? Because I imagine you've like the way that you've talked about stuff like this before is that there has to be a level of creativity or a sort of outside the box thinking when it comes to finding these solutions for like so many different groups. And I'm curious about whether you've shocked everybody by suggesting.
Oh my gosh, I can't tell you the number of times where I've kind of, whether it's intuitively or because I've, read so widely and implemented so deeply, where I've suggested things and people are like, "What?" Kind of a double
Right.
take. Um, I one time I they were working on a trans-Pacific policy, and I was like, "Do we need this?" And
Oh,
people were a little bit taken aback at first. Obviously, there are times and places where it is necessary,
right.
uh, but in this particular instance with this client, there were actually so many other policies that already spoke to all the different components that we had in the trans-Pacific policy, and it kind of made the trans thing stand out. And
Right.
it was already addressed, and so we just kind of, but that's another part of what we do is kind of take a look around the
Mhm.
trans-Pacific pieces to say, okay, where else is this already happening? And if it's already happening, then you might not need the thing. So that's where the proper
Right.
assessment comes to play, is being very careful, comprehensive, and looking different places that people might have looked before and realized, oh yeah, we're actually okay. And
Right.
maybe you need to beef up those other policies to have trans-Pacific examples among others.
Mhm.
So that's one surprise. uh, Another time we were working with a hosteling company organization, and that had the infrastructure, had a
Right.
women's dorm, a men's dorm, and a mixed dorm. So they had the space set up properly. And they were surprised the fact that this was actually a cultural solution, not a structural one. So they thought they were
Mm.
going to have to rejig the structure somehow. It would cost a lot of money, but actually it was just more about training staff on how to, flow people into spaces and not how to take them out of spaces either. So
Mm.
it was more of a dynamic issue than it was a structural issue. So it's just like, again, the proper assessment to see what's actually going on to be able to apply the proper solutions. So there's just some examples. There's many other surprises where, we kind of, I think hopefully pleasantly surprised folks to have some creativity,
Mhm.
particularly around choice among options. That's where we tend to land a lot,
Right.
is just making sure there's enough for folks to self-select.
And that benefits so many people beyond trans and non-binary people.
Hmm. Yeah.
This seems to me like a really big theme then is kind of pausing, slowing down, and
Yeah.
just sort of being aware of what you already have. And I kind of want you to go into that in a bit more detail before diving into a solution that may not be necessary. I was wondering if you could expand on that.
Yeah. More often than not, when we start a process with an organization, we'll ask what they have. And, depends
Mm.
on which topic. If it's about washrooms, we'll ask if they have an inventory of their current configurations. Uh, Maybe, if they have one building, it's different levels, or if multiple buildings, just anything that gives view into what's happening right now. Or
Mhm.
if they're wanting to implement a policy, what are some of the issues that have already come up that they've documented? And we can review those, or what other policies they have. That's also another bit of an inventory. We're just taking stock of what it is that's happening. And more often than not, actually, organizations know what they have, but they haven't looked at it through the lens of gender. And so,
Mm.
yeah, it's really cool because, they have a sense of what they have, but then we have a washroom inventory that allows them to put, even if they already have an inventory, they can kind of populate it in our inventory, which allows them to see the ratio between gender specific, so men's and women's
Mhm.
toilets or urinals, maybe showers, compared to all gender. And then they can really
Right.
see, oh, our ratio is like really low. We we knew we had some, but we didn't realize just how low. So that number
Right.
kind of really wakes them up.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like, oh,
It's very tangible in that case.
yeah, yeah. And so that stock taking is super important, first step in any strategy, no matter the topic. And we review that and digest it, and then we're in a much better position to recommend something that's actually actionable rather than
Right.
just like cookie cutter and formulaic.
Mm,
um, and kind of can plug in to where they're already at and where they want to go. So if say they have a low ratio of like 10% of their fixtures, their toilets or their urinals are all gender, that's too low and
right.
something needs to be done. And then we can pinpoint within their inventory, oh, here on the second floor, there might be an option of doing X, Y, and Z,
Mm,
or in this other building, so we can really create a tailored plan. But the inventory is a really important first step, rather than kind of rushing into things and um, just starting to apply things without
mm. Do you ever get sorry, I'm asking for all the gossip now. Do you
yeah,
ever
yeah.
get pushback when you're trying to like um I don't know, not dive straight in? Because I can imagine,
Mm,
okay, again, this is me inventing things. I don't know if this is true or not because I'm not in client meetings, but I can
sure.
imagine there's either some um, real hesitation about doing anything at all. And that's where maybe that kind of stock taking is really helpful. And then I
Yeah,
can imagine the other side of that is that some folks are so eager to just get in and do it that maybe
yeah.
it could feel like there's these extra steps that is holding it
Mm,
back. Do you ever get that kind of balance?
mm.
Is that hard to find sometimes?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for sure. If especially if there's been an incident, people
Mm,
feel really badly, and they coming from a good-hearted place, they want to prevent this from happening ever again quickly. And I get
sure,
that
I bet.
impulse, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just like, okay, let's shut this down. Let's quickly apply something, anything will do.
Right.
And the stock taking or inventory taking can feel um, not superfluous. I think people understand the need for it, but they also
Mm,
worry about delay. Like, is this
right.
going to delay it now? A month, 6 months, a year? Like,
Mm,
we can't have this. And so, if it's like a very pressing issue that's reoccurring frequently, then of course we have interim measures where we can, like, okay, quick fix, here are some things that you can do right away.
right.
um, Usually like staff oriented in terms of how they can interact with folks, and even like interim places to put things if it's in an information system, or um, even knowing where other washrooms options are outside of the building or on another
Mm,
floor, right? So it's just like we can be quite dynamic and creative,
sure.
to address those pressing issues. But we do very much, suggest the inventory taking, and we assure folks that, I mean, we can do it fairly quickly too, right? We're
Right.
not
Yeah.
taking 2 years to figure it out.
Right.
We've got fast systems to make the magic happen, so to speak. But I appreciate it when it could feel like a delay in some sense, right? But
Right.
an important thing.
An important step to take if you want to see things more clearly.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
There's so many lessons that, of course, we've learned over the years
Mm,
with doing the work that we've done. Obviously, we're very much focused on practical, focused on implementation. We want things to get off the runway. We want
right.
organizations to have success so that trans and non-binary folks feel better,
Right.
and have sense of belonging and whatnot. And depending on if it's the cultural side of things or the structural side of things, each one of them have their own solutions.
Mm,
And we just really encourage, whether it's with us or with others, just that deliberate approach is so key. And yeah, sure, it can feel a bit slow, maybe even, but there's that, I think, the expression of like measure twice, cut once. I think. I don't know if I'm
Right.
getting that wrong. Maybe it's the other way around. No, I don't think. I
Right.
think it's. Um, but there's tremendous value in that. I'll add an aha moment related, especially to gender data. Of course, it's not just applicable to gender data, but
Mhm.
um, usually clients come in and are like, okay, what additional category, one single category do we add, and we're done, right? So they think
Mhm.
it's going to be like a 5-minute talk of me being like, just add non-binary, you know? And they're like,
Right.
okay, cool, done. um, but it's not as simple as that. We
Mm.
usually try to explain what's happening around and understand their objectives. And I think sometimes clients, they just want a pure data download from us, uh,
Right.
without them maybe participating as much. They're a bit surprised by how much they're also in the driver's seat. We're kind of
Mhm.
sharing the driver's seat. They've got
Right.
half of the wheel, I've got the other half. And we're just like, you know, for a short amount of time. But I think they do need to contribute and make decisions.
Mhm.
Of course, informed decisions based on what we share, but they do need to decide. And I think sometimes people are uncomfortable with deciding. And I
Yeah.
would very much encourage folks not to be afraid of a decision, especially if you've spent some time thinking about it and understanding it. I think
Mm.
decisions are important. We just at some point have to, like, we've done all the weighing, we've done the inventorying, and now we're like, okay, we're going to go with this. And
Right.
maybe you'll update along the way, but for now, you've got to go. Um,
Mhm.
and so I think that's an important thing too, not to be afraid of deciding and going with it.
Makes sense. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Kai.
Yeah,
Hopefully
thank
that's
you too.
helpful.
And we've also, I think, one thing I can plug is we do have to look out for is, we did some surveying of our past clients, and we will be sharing an impact report that transfocus what has happened over the last 10 years, and what has happened because of what we've been involved with. And so that might be of interest to some people listening. So and we'll share that in a future time.
Amazing. Cool. Thank you so much, Kai.
Yeah, thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.